Hey, Bigfoot, we're here!
Right, well, we are out in the Kettle Moraine State Forest in Wisconsin, and, it's a seasonable evening on a Saturday, August 24th. It's, about 9:30 p.m. or so. We're out here with Jay Bachochin. Emily, of course, is behind the camera.
Hello.
Hello.
And, this is an area of some interesting sightings, like you were just mentioning one specifically, right?
Yes. It was almost this time last year that a witness on Labor Day 2018 encountered at 3 a.m. what he believes was a Bigfoot. The story's actually up on my YouTube page, but to sum that up, he was camping with his 18-year-old son and a couple of his friends in a 10-man tent. They got done fishing for the day. That's the reason why they came out and they camped. He said he retired the fire at about 10. They went to bed. He woke up. He didn't know what time until after the event, but it was about 3 a.m. And he'd use the bathroom. And like some guys, they don't go find the bathroom. They just find the nearest tree. And he stood by the tree and he started going to the bathroom. And it was not a full moon, but 3/4, and he could actually see the road from where his campsite was, not too far. And he saw something on two legs, big, and he said it was like looking at him. And he didn't know what it was, so he's looking at it, and it's almost mimicking kind of what he's doing. He goes behind the tree, because now he's freaked out. He doesn't know what it is. So he does it again, and when he's behind the tree, he said this thing just inflated, and you could hear it was so quiet at 3 a.m. that it inhaled and blasted out a Jurassic Park type roar that actually made him black out for a second, he said, and kind of almost fell to the ground, but enough to keep looking at it. And all of a sudden the thing took off on the road like a blur. Now, everything that I know about Sasquatch sounds like this would be a typical encounter. One of the biggest questions I'm trying to figure out is, what is a Sasquatch? Everybody's got their opinions. Everybody's got flesh and blood ape or interdimensional or alien. To this day, with all the experience I've ever had or any encounters, if somebody asks me, what do you think a Bigfoot is? I still have a hard time answering it, because it's one of the reasons why I'm out here. The reason why we're out here too, nice bat that just flew by. It's cool because the light's attracting the bugs, and the bats are going to just take them out.
Feeding time.
Feeding time. The reason why we're out here, and just like you guys coming out, bringing the spirit box. I've never tried that out here.
Sure.
I'm kind of at the point right now where I'm kind of tired of just the experiences.
Right.
I no longer need rocks thrown at me or sticks or see red glowing eyes or anything. It'd be cool if you guys were out here and you got to see it.
Right.
I'd really like to know what they are. That's what I'm trying. And that's what I'm hoping that we're attempting to do tonight, with that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see how it goes. I think it's interesting, now you mentioned that particular witness, like blacked out or something after he got yelled at. And I mean, people talk a lot about things like, Sasquatch using infrasound to like manipulate people, basically.
Yeah.
Cause fear, or even put people to sleep, or have them black out,
Yeah.
I've heard people report everything from intense fear to the exact opposite, like extreme calmness, which I always thought was weird. So it's almost like there's a range, potentially, of things that are of states that they could induce, through that. But yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, just the range of phenomena out in the Kettle Moraine too. doesn't lend itself, in my opinion, particularly well to the wood ape hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea that it's just an undiscovered primate, species. It might hold more water if this area wasn't already known also for, mysterious orbs and UFO sightings.
Dogman.
And Dogman,
Yeah.
and all kinds of interesting and strange, phenomena. So, a lot of people, like our friends Joshua Cutchin and Timothy Renner are writing a book currently about the more paranormal Bigfoot
Mm-hmm. It's
cases.
becoming more popular now,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's because nobody has an answer for it yet. Because it's been the wood ape for how long?
Yeah.
And because there's still no answers, and because of what they can do, where they can almost disappear and cloak themselves, people think they're going interdimensional.
Mm.
And that started, I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, it did. It sounded like a branch or something.
Of course, we're in the woods, and this is
It could be a lot of
uncontrolled.
things, right?
But I believe that's what started the whole phenomenon of Bigfoot being interdimensional.
Mm.
The thing is, I don't rule that out either.
Sure, of course not.
I can't.
Mm.
I can't rule out it being a spirit of the woods.
Mm.
And spirit doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's a transparent ghost.
Sure.
Because I think these things leave physical evidence behind, footprints,
Right.
breaks, crashing through trees, vocalizations. Don't know if a ghost can do that. But then again, what's a ghost?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I see what you're saying about...
Well, it's interesting, too, like our... I can say, like, my ancestors specifically, and this is a lot of, if you look at sort of the pre-Christian animistic beliefs, in tribal society. So, I mean, specifically for myself, like the Germanic tribes of Europe, they didn't make a huge distinction between this switch. We'll turn it on. And now this is the volume here. Now this doesn't have all of the same bells and whistles as our larger box, but frankly, I'm not convinced of the efficacy of them necessarily anyway, so.
You have to do the sweep.
Yeah. There we go. And so, once I flip, so I can go, I'll walk you all through this. So we turn the power on, right? And then this starts it actually sweeping through the stations. We've got our volume here. And then this controls how quickly it sweeps through stations. So this way is slower, and then this way is faster here. So we probably don't need it super terribly loud. But sort of what we would want to do then, we'd just start off with something like, is there anybody with us in these woods? Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear any response. So we'll just give that a second. Because one of the things you want to avoid is asking the same question over and over again, because then you're probably looking at something like confirmation bias. By the time you finally get some kind of response, yeah, but you've asked the same question 100 times in a row, but okay, then you finally managed to ask it so many times that, yeah, like it just coincidentally said yes or something. So probably what we will do is, if you have any other questions, we can ask him now, or I might just turn it off and we can ask again
Okay,
in
I got
a
one.
minute. Sure.
Ready?
Yeah.
How many of you are out here?
Just trying to.
Yeah, it's like, how do you find that sweet spot?
Right. Well, that's part of it too. Is just adjusting the sweep rate to allow for like an actual intelligible response as well. Are you upset that we're out here? Yeah, you don't want to let it go too long either. That's the thing.
Do you like us being out here?
I mean, it's the weirdest thing. Like, I can hear something underneath, but I can't make it out. It's like this deep,
It's like a cool,
guttural
cool
sound, and it's not the radio, like people on the radio talking.
Really?
So yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but like, and in response to her last question, it was like something was like "Roar," coming through here.
Really?
Yeah, and I've heard that a couple times now.
I know what you're talking about. I heard it too.
Yeah. So we'll have to look. We'll look at the footage, obviously,
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
and see what the heck that was. But it didn't sound like anything that would have been on the radio. And like I had mentioned before, supposedly the best responses that come through these aren't the it's not just snippets of radio DJs and stuff. It's something that's actually supposed to come through, and so I mean, it's not like people ever really report when they're speaking to a Sasquatch or something like, well, okay, nobody ever reports speaking to a Sasquatch and having them have a conversation with them.
Some did now, believe it or not.
Really?
Les Stroud did the same thing, and he said he heard the answer in his head. And
I've heard that.
And it was his voice, but it was an answer that he doesn't recall thinking. It was almost
Right.
and it's really hard. And what they call that is mind speak. So like you were just saying, the guttural sound could be an imitation of what we would hear, whether through that or through our own ears.
Right, but see,
know what I
that's what
mean?
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely heard of the telepathic communication
Right,
before.
yes.
Yeah, I meant like
You
verbal
just meant, like,
stuff. Yeah.
Like if we actually saw one come out here,
Right,
start
and you were
talking.
like, "Hey, hello."
Yeah. But instead they're just like, oh,
Right.
hello.
Yeah. I hope that's Sasquatch for hello.
Right.
Right.
Do you want us to put the box away?
And I know it.
Now my question is, are those all yes and no questions? The same thing, even though they're different questions.
Yeah.
Are you still going to eventually get your yes or no
Maybe.
after each question, no matter what kind of question's asked. Even if it's a different question, it's still a yes or no. That's how come I asked how many of you are out there.
Right.
Because I'd rather hear an answer of 1,
Yeah, exactly.
7,
Like an actual number.
100, who are all around you right now.
Right. So, okay. Yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. So asking something like, what do you like to be called?
Right.
That was something, but I couldn't make it out. I feel like I'm not very good at making things out on the box yet.
Yeah.
But that's good that you're recording it because you can slow it down.
Right. Can you repeat your name or what you like to be called? Yeah, I'm not getting anything else.
Should we call it for the box for now?
Yeah, we can do that.
Alright, I'm gonna turn the camera off too.
Alright.
You know, like if I started tonight, I would say, well, it's not like they're 10 miles away and that light's going to bring them in. I feel if they're here right now.
Right.
And they're just standing around us for curiosity, not revealing anything.
Right.
Not yet, anyway.
Sure.
And, you know, maybe when, because we've been out here late to where it sounds like sticks being thrown through the woods. And I always feel that that's a test of trust, because let's say some stones were thrown or some sticks, and we get up and you start pulling out guns because we're all concealed. They want to see what you're doing. Like, all right, let's don't mess with them. They've got weapons. But if we sit here and wait it out, then they're like, okay, they're not moving. Because right now the curiosity is, what are these 3 people doing sitting in the middle of the woods in the dark? That's not normal. You know, they're usually out during the day riding horses or biking. What are these 3 people doing? Let's get a closer look, you know? Like, I feel like right now we're the Brady Bunch or something. They're watching TV. I'm sorry, growing pains. All right, something else, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So I feel that we're an active entertainment and curiosity right now.
Okay.
But, and again, I don't know why or what the rule is, but what is the rule about them not trying to communicate and showing themselves?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, there might be some cultural reason for them.
Right.
Could be that they have their own rules. Who knows?
But far superior than us.
Definitely also seemingly able to manipulate, humans or consciousness or something.
And then I think that these things have got to be so smart out here of not being able to vocalize because they're right in the middle of people. These things can move around undetected so easily. They say these things could be, anywhere from 600 to 1,000 pounds, but yet not make a sound in the woods. How is that possible?
Right.
Now I start to think, well, you know how they put out those, infrasound possibly, or if there's something that can block our senses of hearing, to where we're targeted. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're engulfed in we can't hear anything besides
We're talking,
bugs.
if we're going back to, sort of talking about being manipulated, or manipulating consciousness or perception or whatever. Yeah, I mean, of course, I think you could. It could be that it's not necessarily that they're not making noise so much as they're not letting us hear it by manipulating, because people think that like seeing and hearing and all of our senses are dependent upon our sensory organs, but and that's true to a certain extent. Obviously, if your eyes don't work, you're going to be blind. But the most important sensory organ we have is our brain.
Right. Yeah.
And so if something is able to manipulate, our consciousness to, or to manipulate our mind, then yeah, it doesn't matter if your sensory organs are picking up the stimulus, if your brain isn't interpreting it, so
No,
yeah, who
that makes
knows?
complete sense. Rustling or something behind you, Toby,
Mhm.
like up that direction. And before this light came around the corner, I was with Mary.
Okay, I swear I just heard something take a huge breath, inhale and exhale behind me.
Really?
Yes, and it gave me the biggest chills. It was like, and then I just heard more rustling back there.
You really did hear something?
Yeah, no, it scared the shit out of me.
It's okay. You can come out. You guys have seen Toby and Emily out here with me before. Again, what are we doing out here? We're just out here because we're curious, just like you are right now. Now, if you have any like body heat or anything, you can step out. She said it's okay, but I wouldn't mind if you at least just stepped out or made yourself known. I'd appreciate. I'll give you $100. It'll be in a debit card though, because I don't have cash. But honestly, you can feel what we're all feeling here, or what our intentions are. I don't even know how it's possible.
I thought I saw something pass you there before.
Yes, where? What direction?
Between you and Toby.
Okay.
Like on the ground or in the air?
In the woods.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you see?
I thought I saw so in between you and Jay, and behind you in the trees, I thought I saw if you're saying how many legs, it would have been bipedal because it was taller, but it was like a lump, like a shadow lump.
It's like an indistinct humanoid shape walking between trees.
But lumpier than that.
Lumpier.
I can't make out shoulders, arms.
Just a shape.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Interesting.
That reminds me of my 2015. That not too far from here.
Mm-hmm.
Hop, skip, and a jump. During the winter,
Mm-hmm.
we were sitting on top of a kettle staking out on a dead log, as I called it, and there was a shape of something moving from one tree to another. It was snowy, so you could really make out the tree in the ground, but it was hard because it's exactly what you just said. It didn't really have a total human shape.
I would say that with it, if you think about a typical cartoon sheep ghost, where it's a perfect dome.
Right.
But I could see a little bit more shape, but not very much at all.
Right. You could really make out shoulders, arms, but yet where it kind of comes up like this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
After you saw it, or wait, you didn't see it yet, or you didn't say you saw it yet.
I'm not very good at saying things.
I always wait too.
Right, that's fine.
Because I'm
I like to call them out, and it will also help me as I'm talking about it to help debunk it. Before you said that, you must have saw it right before me. We were total dark, and you could see the sky through some of these trees, and it almost looked like there was a mass that moved from left to right. So again, we didn't have any lights on, so I can't say that it was blinding me and my eyes are playing tricks. However, and it's hard because as soon as we go dark, what happens to our senses?
Yeah, well, of course.
The primal fear comes out, and then you got to think, what are we doing out here? We already have that subconscious preemptive thought of Bigfoot or whatever. You're already thinking that. So what is our minds doing to us? But I saw that. And then I think that was it, wasn't it?
That's about
You
it.
saw?
I saw it. That's about it.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting out here, and from behind me, so I'm looking to my left, and first thing, I swear I see motion in the periphery of my vision to my left. And I hear what sounds like a deep inhale and exhale. So, from just behind me. And it scared the crap out of me, of course. Like, I got chills immediately. And then I heard some rustling from behind me. And I don't know if the rustling was related, but it seems like quite a coincidence. And there have been little, like tree branches snapping and rustling and things behind me off and on since then. And so that's unusual. Of course, like that deep, huffy breath really got me, because that's not something that could really be replicated by anything that would be out here, especially in such close proximity. Obviously there are lots of mundane animals that breathe, and of course, duh, and could potentially make that sound. But if it was, say, like a deer or something similar, you would know about it. Like, for it to be that close, it would have made a bunch of noise, and it wouldn't have approached us in the first place.
Now, let me add on to yours, because same thing happened to me. I was out with Mary Marshall for the first time. Supermoon, blood moon, or not blue, super.
Super blood moon?
I don't know if it's super blood moon or just supermoon. I don't know the difference.
Right.
They have
But
all sorts of moons.
it was so light out. You didn't need any light, and you could see the trails. You could see the outskirts of the trees, and there, I heard the same thing that you did, and it sounded like it was right behind me. And it was like a pucker the butt moment, because it was like you don't know where it's coming from, and just like you said, it's enough to strike the fear in you, right? So what were we talking about before we went lights out? We were just talking about you don't have the same feeling that you did the last time you were out here.
Right, yeah.
You felt sitting in your living room, you felt comfortable, it was all good, right? And then all of a sudden, we go lights out, and I don't know if that's just a primal part of the human psyche.
Oh,
You
yeah.
turn the lights off, all of a sudden it's the unknown.
Things get a little spooky, yeah.
Dude, bat.
Yeah, we have seen a few bats out here, but no, you're absolutely right. And it's funny that, because I had completely forgotten about that, but you're absolutely right. Like, we were just talking about how much more comfortable we were out here as opposed to the last time we were out here,
Right.
when
But
just
the last time we
immediately.
had the moon.
What's that?
We did. We
had a
did
full
have the
moon
moon.
last
We
time.
did have a full moon, and immediately when we came out last time, like, we were feeling it. Like, we were feeling unnerved the entire time, like right away.
Right.
And I didn't feel that at all this time until we went lights out and I heard whatever the hell that was breathe behind me.
Right. And how about this?
And now I'm still, like, a little off.
So am
Me
I.
too.
Yeah.
And how about this? And this has happened one other time, and hopefully you can help validate it right here, right now. But even with the lights out, we were able to semi-see. But for some reason, I felt like a switch went,
Yeah, you're
and
both saying that.
and everything just went darker than normal. We could see behind you-ish,
Right.
and all of a sudden we couldn't.
Right. So basically, what it was is like we are able to see, even though it's dark out. You can still through the trees you can see the sky. So there's a portion of the horizon that is behind Emily that was visible through the trees, and just like Jay said, we're sitting around, we're talking, and you could see it because we would look over there and see it. As we were just kind of generally looking around, and it's like somebody flipped an off switch. All of a sudden, that area it's completely black. Everything got darker out here. I looked up. All the stars were still there. It didn't suddenly get cloudy outside. There was the same amount of natural illumination that had been present all night, but suddenly we were unable to see through the trees like we were able to just seconds before.
And that's happened with me, Scott Marcus, and Dan Malone. Actually, again, part of the documentary. Remember the tree fell? That part in the film. What I didn't get into was the sky turning off, is what I called it, because it gets beyond anything I can explain.
Right.
But it seemed like it just happened. So I'm really curious if we do hear a tree get pushed. Now I can correlate the darkness in the tree, and again, we don't know the source, but that would be something cool. And then what else did we hear? I know there was besides that. We're talking about the skyline through the trees.
Right.
I still hear something. Sometimes when I'm listening for that, you do hear things drop. And I've heard things drop thousands of times out here. You think right now what's out? Raccoons, possum, flying squirrels that are up in trees. And what are they doing? Nestling, moving, dropping branches. It sounded like a fall, didn't it? That one?
That sounded like something falling, yeah.
Like it hit a trunk or something.
Right, and you can actually visualize hearing it coming down, because it's hitting things as it's going down versus horizontal, going through the trees. And that's what I listen for. So if it's just a drop, again, uncontrolled environment, animals up in trees, messing around, and and dropping little sticks or little branches or whatever. But if they become heavier, like the one that we heard that you said sounded like an acorn, it sounded heavier than an acorn. So you got to look at the different type of trees and
because it could have been like a hickory nut, because we've
hickory nuts, they're big.
And I think Toby referred to them as rock apples.
Yeah, they are. They're basically rock apples.
They look like apples, but they're huge.
Right.
So that would be something you have to consider. But it's just the way it would, the sound of it coming down, and understanding that, you wonder what kind of animals are around us right now.
Right.
But I did hear that, and I kept,
it was something.
And then what I always listen for is animals are not, their behavior is not to make a sound and an animal's just going to go about doing its thing, whether it's afraid of us or carrying on doing what it's doing. They're not going to stop. And even if they stop, they'll stop for a few seconds and move on. So if you hear a loud sound of some sort, a branch break, that's when you listen. And if there's nothing else after it, I feel it's worthy of being more of a mystery. So those are the type of things I listen for when I hear things in the woods at night. Like right now, I heard something fall. We all heard it. And then I'm listening for the follow-up. And I heard little bits, but, I really can't tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. It's not like a big tree falling down yet.
Right.
Who knows, though?